It's still hot on the auction block. You can really feel it in your bones when you walk down certain streets in Richmond, New Orleans, and Charleston. That iron collar didn't just bite flesh. It wrote history with a holy mark. They lied and called it a curse on black skin, whispered from pulpits built on stolen land while wearing torn robes. But what if I told you that God has never condemned a sad child? What if the hands that tied you up were the real curse, not your body? Deuteronomy 28, which was written in the fires of the Sinai desert, tells of individuals with iron on their necks, ships crossing oceans, and babies being sold to strangers. It looks a lot like the tears your grandma's granny cried. Seminaries buried the text. They buried it because it showed something terrifying. In less than a generation, every empire that drank black blood crumbled. Britain, Egypt, and Rome. The United States is 248 years old. The clock is ticking. The fear you see now, the insane headlines, the desperate laws, and the breakdown of institutions have nothing to do with losing power. It's the sound of Pharaoh's heart beating one more time before the sea opens up. Find out what happens next. You can feel it in your soul when you scroll past another video of a black youngster being shot. That agony isn't just being sad. Your DNA is begging for your forebears. In 1619, the White Lion ship dropped off 20 kidnapped people on Virginia soil. This was the start of slavery, but not just that. It was the beginning of a great period. Your descendants will be strangers in a land that is not their own and will be enslaved and mistreated for 400 years, reads Genesis 15:13. Count it. From 1619 to 2019, 400 years of stolen breath, names that have been taken for 400 years. For 400 years, many believed that Ham's curse justified slavery. The Hebrew term asterisk means hot, not black, and Canaan was never in Africa. They changed the text to make it possible for whips to be baptized, but God keeps records. Revelation 18:20 is a strong verse. Oh gosh, be happy for her. Give thanks to the saints, the prophets, and the apostles. God has assessed the punishment she gave. On you know this is not revenge, accounting for the universe. No, the growing number of black people isn't what worries me. That's why the bell in heaven is ringing. Think about that. Banks that supplied money to slave dealers are now afraid of cases for reparations. Judges of African origin are getting rid of Jim Crow legislation that the same courts used to support. Black mayors are planting gardens on the same streets where lynch mobs used to gather on ground that was once soaked with blood. But they don't tell you this. God always starts judging from his house. Ezekiel 9:3 tells the destroyer to kill the mothers, children, young people, and men. You shouldn't touch someone if their forehead is marked, though. That mark isn't ink. The sun is coming up. The black mother chose to homeschool her kids because public school teachers were lying. The barber transformed his chair into a reading corner. This is the teenager who turned off TikTok to read Marcus Garvey. They are scared when they see the mark getting bigger. They might think you're getting your identity back. Memory is the first domino in the chain of freedom. Consider this. A rice field in Charleston, South Carolina around 1825. As the sun rises, blood stains the red patties. A slave woman hides a Bible under her clothes while the overseers whip her. She traces a star in Deuteronomy 28:68, which says, "The Lord will send you back to Egypt in ships. No matter how hard you try, your enemies, they won't sell you as slaves. Buy you." She can't read, but she's being forced to read the King James Version, and the Spirit is yelling authenticity within her. You will not be bought. The prophecy does not pertain to her physical appearance. Around midnight, she murmurs to her daughter a lullaby of revolution about the impending collapse of the systems. The daughter, my great-granddaughter, recently graduated from Howard Law School, and she marched with Fannie Lou Hamer. Io's rebellion. Fear is innate to you. The current state of affairs is just a replay of Pharaoh's fear. A time when Hebrew midwives resisted the urge to slaughter black babies out of reverence for God. Hold for a second. In 1957, word got out in London's banking circles about a confidential document. On page 3, paragraph 2, the economic awakening of the African diaspora poses a danger to splintering cultures is important for containment. Was aware that financiers orchestrated crack epidemics while churches sang. Abolitionist preachers defended slavery as divinely decreed, while politicians followed God's patterns. However, as shown in the criminal statute of 1994, which incarcerated an entire generation. When Belshazzar desecrated sacred vessels, Babylon collapsed. America is the same way. It is the black family that has been purposefully broken up by programs like assistance, mass imprisonment, and foster care quotas. However, 3 promises in Isaiah 61:3 indicate that they will be given a crown of beauty rather than ashes. The fear is understandable when you think about how black billionaires are paying for HBCU and how kids are choosing coding boot camps over gang life. When you see Yoruba altars being reclaimed by elders, they are rushing to make it illegal because the crown is growing in the Detroit basement. The idea of critical race. They are afraid that you would connect the golden cups of Babylon to your child's education. Course outline, hold on a second, roll back the clock. Did you hear the word asterisk? Nobody's going to fund you. The Abolition Act of 1807 is not about slavery ending. Rather, it is about the market collapsing. Deuteronomy 28:68. Instead of freeing slaves, it established the practice of leasing incarcerated individuals. The Civil Rights Act of 1964 did not stop discrimination. This is how the prison industrial complex came to be. 2025 is different though. Black money is now in circulation. Black banks get black currency. African American land trusts get back the land that was taken from them. Black suffering is now a market crisis. On Wall Street, experts talk about the risk that population shifts pose. They are worried that predatory systems will lose black customers, and there is fear. Your protest signs are not this. Your buying power is it. As Walmart across the street closes, black farmers in Jackson, Mississippi sell to black families at this grocery store. Resurrection in the economy is a sign of God's judgment. Workers at the morgue are scared of resurrection. Imagine yourself at the site of the 1803 Ebo landing. A slave ship carried 75 enslaved people. As they stepped into the Atlantic, they both turned and disappeared under the water. Colonial records called it mass suicide. The Gullah elders, on the other hand, sing songs of victory to celebrate it. We were brought home by the water spirits. You are not dead. That is divine extraction. For black therapists, divine extraction now means addressing trauma that has persisted through generations, as if black farmers were restocking food deserts, just like black programmers creating apps that sidestep discriminatory algorithms. When they see that you aren't groveling for a place at their table, they start to freak out. Ancestral land is being used to construct a new nation. The fortunes of my people Israel will be restored, says Amos 9:14-15. They intend to cultivate vines and sip the wine they produce. Wineries in the Magnolia State, old oak trees in Oakland, Ghanaian vineyards. There is no metaphor here. It has just taken place. As they fret over diversity quotas, you are sowing seeds in the same ground that your great-grandfather worked while threatened with violence. They buried this bit here. Rather than merely justifying colonialism, the theory of discovery promulgated by the Vatican in 1493 effectively militarized baptism. Convert or burn in hell, missionaries warned Africans enslaved by Europeans. Caesar was portrayed as Christ by them. But that falsehood is shattered by Acts 17:26. With the intention that people would seek God, he created every country from a single individual. Your forefathers from Uraba sought God in the clouds. In the rivers of the Congo, your ancestors sought God. In praise of the Creator, your canine ancestors mapped galaxies. You weren't actually cursed. The demonization of your gods was uttered by the missionaries. When white congregations decline and black churches sprout new movements, modern-day anxiety rises to a fever pitch. In a case when the judge lowers the charges against a grandchild whose grandmother is black, the megachurch pastors preach prosperity while the grandma prays for his release from prison. That's not a hoax. That's the battle of the souls. Even more terrifying than your wrath is your altar. Keep this schedule in mind. Slave ships first arrived in 1619. Black codes replaced chains after the Civil War in 1865. Dr. King was slain in 1968, just days after the Poor People's Campaign was launched. George Floyd's murder in 2020 sparked demonstrations all around the world. God's math is revealed in Daniel 9:24 after 4 decades of persecution and delayed justice. You have commanded that your people finish the transgression and put an end to sin for 70 weeks, 490 years or 70 weeks. The sum of 1619 and 490 years is 21,109, but when the downtrodden rise up, divine cycles speed up. The torch was passed to you by the 1968 generation. The torch was lighted by the 2020 generation. Here history is poised to turn. Not losing elections is the cause of the panic. The key is not to waste time. Cloning crops that have gone extinct in Africa is something that black scientists are seen doing. In rundown areas, black engineers are constructing solar grids. Black artisans are bringing ancient Benin artifacts back to Nigeria. This is the 4K version of Exodus. As soon as the water starts to shiver, Pharaoh's army goes into a state of fear. Allow me to demonstrate what they attempted to remove. A ledger from a plantation in Mississippi documented this entry in 1830, paid $800 for Sarah, who was 14 years old. The buyer from Georgia paid $1,200 for her child, Ezekiel, on an individual basis. Separating families resulted in a 50% profit margin. Currently, that record is housed in the National Archives. Look at Deuteronomy 28:32 instead. Another country will take your children as a gift, divine forensics or mere coincidence. Because you're going digital with these ledgers, they're freaking out. The reason is you're trying to trace Ezekiel's family tree by comparing DNA, for the simple reason that you are suing financial institutions that provided insurance to slave owners. This does not constitute organizing. You are reading Ezekiel 37:7. The bones fused, one on top of the other, reclaiming one's original name, tracing one's ancestry to a particular Sagal hamlet, or interring a loved one on one's own property, all cause dry bones to rattle. When coffins are opened, it sounds like a catastrophe. Things become risky at this point. The same force that made Pharaoh's heart harden is now muttering, divide and conquer. They prioritize funding programs that address black-on-black violence while neglecting police expenditures. Black maternity wards are closed while black billionaires are celebrated. However, the trap is revealed in Zechariah 14:13. On that day, the Lord will cause men to panic. They will all attack each other after grabbing each other's hands. The last resort of a crumbling empire is internal strife. Blacks and whites are at odds in the actual conflict. The lie that you are cursed is not true. Your great-grandmother knew this. In 1921, she planted sweetgrass on the ashes of her destroyed church and then used those ashes to build a school. This is how it works. Critique does not mean destruction. This is cleansing. God is not destroying the United States. The very things that betrayed you are now under his fire. You are about to find out something they kept from you. The CIA put out a warning in 1973. They said that the spiritual awakening of African Americans was a bigger threat than communism, which has been lessened by too much media and confusing theology. That's why the name of the king who ordered the translation of the Bible to justify slavery, King James, was on it when you were a kid. This is why your pastor didn't teach from Deuteronomy 28. But the truth came out in the end. In 1998, Ghanaian archaeologists found a church from the 17th century. Enslaved Christians who wouldn't worship a god associated with chains put their shackles under the altar. They knew the real Jesus who turned the tables on his enemies in the temple. Sell everything you own, Jesus told the rich man. Black lives matter less than the current fear. This is about the rise of black sanctuaries. Burying shackles is what you get when you give to a community garden instead of a corrupt mega-church. When you teach your kids African cosmology while homeschooling, you are building altars. This makes them more afraid of your prayer circles than of your objections. Put a check mark here. The oppressive structures you have endured will eventually fall apart by the year 2030. Colleges that didn't accept you will fall under the weight of the student loan problem. Drugstores in your area that cater to the opioid crisis will go bankrupt. The coastal cities that were built on slave labor will be flooded when the climate collapses. However, according to Isaiah 43:19, I am doing something new. I am paving a path in the middle of nowhere. The Urban Agricultural and Mutual Assistance Center of Jackson, Mississippi, the most black city in America, is in the middle of nowhere. In Oakland, black teens turn abandoned lots into healing gardens, making a wilderness in the process. The goal here isn't survival, it's planning. God hides his relics in the wild all the time. The Hebrews got Egypt's riches after Pharaoh died. Daniel got Babylon's libraries when it fell. The United States of America will be yours to inherit when its systems fail. Make sure you're ready before you resort to violence. Their last hope is terror. Your birthright is your inheritance. If you keep believing in the curse, you won't make it through what is about to happen. That lie comes from your grandma's fear of passing police cars. Your uncle is an alcoholic. You don't believe in yourself when it comes to setting reasonable charges. Galatians 3:13 says, Christ saved us from the curse of the law. You were never cursed. The statute used the word property. Black wealth that is passed around can break the curse. Start that business. Put your money on that cousin's work. Get the land. Every dollar that stays in the community is another weapon in the fight for freedom. They start to stress out when they see that you're awake. Last Tuesday, when you turned down that horrible job offer and chose dignity over money, you set off the judgment. It was a judgment call to get rid of the dating app that showed you trauma porn. You made a judgment when you declared that your daughter's hair is sacred. Small changes can bring down whole dynasties. Imagine a future where ecosystems are fixed instead of checks being written. When black marine biologists rehabilitate the wetlands around the Gulf Coast, they are restoring land that was formerly rice fields worked by slaves. As soon as black engineers take over solar fields, they will be able to run burned-out Detroit factories. There is no utopia when kids in Charleston pick okra from auction blocks or gardens. That is what Jubilee is. Leviticus 25:10 gives 10 commands. Let's commemorate the 50th anniversary and give everyone freedom. The United Nations will mark the 50th anniversary of the International Year of the Black Woman in 2025. I hate math. The fear makes sense. You plant seeds in the red dirt of Georgia while they build bunkers in New Zealand. While people are hoarding gold, you're building cooperatives. You remember that melanin is a pigment that God made and that it grows well in the hot African heat even if many are scared of black skin. This is a cosmic flip. The first one will be last. The auctioneer is replaced by a gardener. The supervisor acts like the student. The sound of thrones toppling is what scares people. Look at the cost of staying asleep. Your kids will feel the same pain you had. They'll be scared of the police and back off. They are going to lie in the sun. That they are cursed is a lie, but they will believe it. But this is the cost of waking up. You will face Pharaoh's rage. Friends who are only around when things are good will leave you. Some people will call you divisive. The Bible also declares, because he loves me, I will save him. Psalm 91:14-5. I will protect him since he knows my name. A wall of protection won't keep the pain away. It's understanding that your pain is not for nothing. You will start a business that feeds 20 families after they fire you for stating the truth. Even if they redline your area, build a land trust that will last longer than they do. You will educate your history in your living room when they try to obliterate it. This is how empires fall apart. Black mothers should read their kids proverbs written on kente cloth instead of explosives. Instead of rioting, black fathers should be teaching their sons how to fix engines so they don't have to beg for food. Panic is their cue to give up. My granddad was born in Mississippi in 1910. The Klan set fire to his schoolhouse on his 7th birthday. He thought God hated him for the rest of his life. My father brought that disgrace with him to America as he ascended the business ladder that was erected on his back. I almost drowned myself in theology texts looking for a God who looked like the people who hurt me. Then I read the Hebrew text of Deuteronomy 28. The oppressed are not under the curse word of Kelala, which is only for those who break the covenant. Those who enslaved God's image bearers broke God's covenant and were therefore actually cursed. The fact that I didn't know I had broken bonds made me feel free. My walk is different today. I plant okra in my backyard. My tithing goes to people who help black people. I teach my nephew Yoruba how to pray. This is one technique to break generational curses, with reclamation, not rage. You see the craziness? The last ding of a lie that has been around for 400 years. When the truth is told, lies die. We can't be stopped, not even by hell's gates. Not because you're powerful, but because the same spirit that raised Christ from the grave lives in your dark flesh. When you choose forgiveness over anger, you take away hell's weapons. Build a credit union while they build jails to stop hell. When people sing freedom songs in grocery store checkout lines, hell breaks loose. Hope that doesn't lead to action is useless. There is a war going on. The Bible says in Ephesians 6:12, our battle is not against flesh and blood. So get along with white people. Push back against the old Egyptian way of thinking that says you are less than. Stand up to the Babylonian way of thinking that says your anguish is worth more than an asterisk. Refute the Roman idea that violence is the same as justice. The dawn prayer circles are your instruments, farming in empty lots in cities. Homeschool groups teach African astronomy. The best way to bring God's wrath on you is to become who He wants you to be. Keep in mind that you have time on your side. Think of it as a friend. The year 2019 marked the end of 400 years. There will be celestial acceleration in 2025. By the year 2030, 3 things will happen. 3 times as many black people will own land. Black mental health collectives will step in instead of drugs. Black historians are in charge of rewriting the national curricula. Around 2035, information starts to flow down instead of money. Engineers who work on sustainable cities will learn from the wise men and women who made it through Jim Crow's time. The griots who wrote down oral histories will educate AI on how to keep Yoruba cosmology alive. By 2040, the United States will not fall. There will be a change. The old systems must die so that the new one can fly, exactly like a caterpillar turns into a butterfly. Anxiety is like a cocoon that breaks open. Letting the caterpillar go is fine. As wings come out of the dark, dance for them. You are here right on the edge of the Red Sea. Pharaoh's army is rumbling behind you. Drones are flying above Ferguson. Laws that would censor you and machines that watch your every move. The water, on the other hand, hasn't split yet. That's the actual thing. Are you going back to the old rules? You could also wait for the right time from God before you plunge into the ocean. Joshua 3:13 tells the priests what to do. When your bare feet touch the water, the flow will stop. Your shoes are now wet. Your tears made this moment possible. Your ancestors' blood fertilized the ground. Come forward not with weapons but with devotion, with respect, not anger. Don't look at the tragedy that's about to happen. The sound of fear is only a false alarm. The noise you're hearing is the water barriers going up. The seas are breaking apart. Move onward. This will not kill America. A new start has begun. 400 years of hard work created something. A thing that brings together the wisdom of Kemet, the might of Timbuktu, and the power of Montgomery. It's not that a country will be gone that scares people. They never had the story to begin with, but now they are losing control of it. It belongs to the Creator who made order out of chaos. The mother who sang songs of freedom in slave quarters is the legitimate owner of it. You will feel the chains come off as you read this truth in your living room. The army is getting stronger, the bones are shaking, and Hell's gates won't be able to stop it. I have finished it. This is where the story begins. The water has not yet split. Feel the quake under your feet. Don't be scared. The wheels of heaven's chariot are rumbling as they come down to earth. Ferguson's helicopters aren't the only thing in the Pharaoh's army. It's banks shutting your black-honed accounts, algorithms mapping your social media, and school boards banning books about your past. They call it safety. God calls it the last breath of a snake that is dying. But as the priests go on, you'll see what occurs. People who wanted to see the Jordan River were not allowed to. As the people carrying the ark got closer, it broke apart. That ark is all over you now that you're an adult. It's in your genes, in the quilts your grandma created, and even in the drum beats your soul hears before your brain does. They keep counting chariots, but when they see you heading near the river, they are even more worried. Exodus 14:2 tells how to reveal the secret. He made it very hard for them to move by jamming the wheels of their chariots. That is why their systems are not working right now. Supply chains break. When AI tries to predict how strong black people will be, it makes mistakes. The announcement of lawsuits over compensation makes stock markets very nervous. There is order in this place. Satan is behind a plan in heaven to destroy everything. Think about this. Montgomery, Alabama in 1955. Rosa Parks is not tired. She is still standing strategically. Her feet hurt not because she worked, but because she is standing on Deuteronomy 28:48. Because you didn't serve the Lord your God with joy, you will have to serve your enemies in a place that the Lord will take you. The bus driver is angry. Do something. But Rose's spirit can hear Isaiah 61:1. I am here to say that those who are being held captive by him are free. She isn't being quiet on purpose. It is the first wave that comes from a tsunami. That ripple is still inside you now when you choose to turn off the news to keep your peace. When you choose treatment instead of trauma bonding. When you leave a job where you have to stay quiet, they get scared because they think you've given up. But silence is your weapon. When there was a lull before the storm, the Pharaoh's horses were killed. Right now, look at this. The Federal Reserve Act, which made economic slavery legal, was passed in 1913. Section 16 hid the sentence that said banks may lend against commercial paper backed by human collateral. They called it loans. They were talking about your great-grandfather's body. The black family was the first to lose their farms when the Great Depression hit. They didn't do this on purpose. It was because banks called these loans phantom debts overnight. The fear of today is a result of the stolen. It wasn't just luck that black homeowners lost 53% of their wealth during the 2008 financial crisis while banks got bailouts. This spirit was what made Joseph a slave in the first place. Greed in the form of a suit, but Amos 8:4 is loud. Listen to this, you are the one who steps on the poor and gets rid of the needy in the country. A black credit union in Atlanta that won't let dishonest lenders open accounts is an illustration of divine judgment. It looks like teens in Chicago are making apps that can keep an eye on redlining in real time. People who work in banking are afraid because the market for black despair is getting smaller. Stop, please, step back. Have you been able to get human collateral? This statement led to the practice of convict leasing when slaves were freed. People who owned plantations became jail guards. They made an ankle monitor out of shackles. Ezekiel 34:16, on the other hand, shows the lie. I will hunt for people who have gone missing and bring back those who have strayed. I will make the weak stronger and tie up the hurt. The counter-economy of God is growing. Malik, a black farmer in Jackson, Mississippi, rents land to men who have been in jail before. In regions where jails used to make money by having inmates work, they now grow collard greens. They fed 300 families during the last harvest. The state tried to shut them down because they broke zoning rules. Malik stood on the porch with his grandfather's shotgun instead of firing it. He did this to show that he knew the rules that apply to the wild. Using this strategy, cycles can be broken not with bullets but with seeds. They start to panic more when they know you don't want to sit at their table. You are building a totally new country in the middle of nowhere. This is the part that they put in the seminary's basement to hide. It doesn't only say in Deuteronomy 28:32 that your kids will be given to another country. You won't be able to do anything about what you see there in front of you. The verse kept bothering me until I started learning Hebrew. The word powerless, which is known as *ph, comes from a root that means to bind. For 400 years they used whips to bind your wrists, lies to bind your thoughts, and humiliation to bind your spirit. But the ropes will start to break down in 2025. Watch the data. The number of black pupils who are homeschooled has gone up by over 300% since 2020. People who want to see a black therapist who specializes in generational trauma usually have to wait months. Black elders are utilizing TikTok to record the stories of their communities. It's not a trend, it's a planned return to power. They are terrified because they see you letting your kids think for themselves. When you tell your daughter about Queen Nzinga instead of Cinderella, you are not following the usual fairy tale. You are breaking the chains that have been put on your son by choosing to take him to drum circles instead of football practice. They are calling it legislation for parental rights because they are afraid you will wake up. Pay close attention to this pattern. The Northwest Ordinance, which was passed in 1787, says that slavery is not allowed north of the Ohio River, but Article 3 added the phrase religious liberty as a way to get around the two. Shall not be infringed as long as it does not disturb the public peace. They use tranquility to silence abolitionists and reach their purpose, preachers. The Voting Rights Act of 1965 made it possible for you to vote, but Section 5 allowed certain states to use literacy tests. Black voters were put in jail for spelling Mississippi wrong. The terror we see now is a result of that playbook. They yell for the right to free speech even as they stop books about John. They say that what they do is law, and order was restored when journalists were arrested for revealing police aggression. Psalm 94, 2021 says, "Is it possible for people who frame mischief by statute to be joined with you, those who are unjust rulers?" The band together against today's response can be found in the pattern. Is it the life of the righteous? When they use the law as a weapon against you, the law will turn against them, regarding them. During the Jim Crow era, the civil rights movement was born. The origin of redlining, trusts dedicated to the community's land, street medic collectives were born out of the stop and frisk policy. It is there your weapons will become your weapons. The irony of that is amazing. Put yourself in a slave cabin in 1850. The master's supervisor just raped your sister. You clench your fists. Even though your spirit is crying out for revenge, the older man grabs your wrist and points to the dirt floor in front of you. He uses a stick to draw the asterisk, which is a sign for adding money. It's a bird watching the past while moving forward in the present. "Always remember," he mutters, "but don't drown in the water behind you. Build on dry ground, get to the destination. The knowledge that elders had is your inheritance right now." When you see another video of police brutality, the pain is more than just anger. It is a form of ancestral trauma that needs to be released. But God's ruling is not a form of street rioting. Black therapists are setting up free trauma clinics, and black lawyers are suing police unions to declare bankruptcy. African American artists are painting murals over bullet holes there. They are scared because they don't know how you will heal. Your tears are bringing back seeds that they thought were dead. This is when things start to get interesting, Bible-based. The temple in Jerusalem was destroyed by the Babylonians in the year 586 BC. They were the elite. Exiled. Jeremiah 29:7, however, issued an order to the exiles. Look for the tranquility and prosperity that the city that I have brought you and brought you to. It is not retribution, reconstructing something. The Babylon of today is not a city at all. Specifically, it is the jail industrial complex. 23 million persons are being held captive. On the other hand, divine reversal has already arrived. Former inmates in Baltimore manage a bakery that provides employment opportunities to other recently jailed women. By selling cinnamon buns, they raise money for bail. They purchased the building next door to provide housing for homeless adolescents. Doing so is not charitable. It's a battle of the imagination. 11 and 10 of Ezekiel 36, a prophecy that says, "I will increase the number of people and animals on you, and they will be fruitful and multiply. I will establish people's trust in you just like I did in the past." Every time God restores something, it always begins with the forgotten. It is when they discover that you are not waiting for their permission to rebuild that they experience a wave of panic. In the ruins that they created, you are carrying it out. Soak that in for a moment. Indeed, the Crime Bill of 1994 did more than just fill jails. It tainted the masculinity of black people. The midnight basketball leagues that were mandated under Section 11,013 were a bandage on a bullet wound that served as an alternative to gang warfare. Nevertheless, this was the true wound. They taught young black men that there was no such thing as crying, that suffering was a sign of weakness, and that strength meant being silent. Therefore, we hid our sorrow in alcoholic beverages, in wrath, and in gold chains. On the other hand, Psalm 35 includes the following verse: "Weeping may remain for the night, but rejoicing comes in the morning." We are now in the morning. Be on the lookout for the shift. Currently, treatment sessions are held at barbershops owned by black people. Black fraternities teach people how to read and write about their feelings. Black fathers share vulnerable videos that talk about things like sadness and divorce. This is the scariest thing for the enemy. A 14-year-old boy in Detroit who chooses to maintain a notebook instead of a pistol gets a lot of criticism. When a grandfather finally admits that he's getting well after being abused, he lets go of help. The panic is not caused by security. The issue is that you can't control how much pain you feel. You are about to see something that they have hidden in the National Archives. A note from JP in 1921, Morgan's private secretary. Their spiritual awakening is a threat to the Negro's financial stability. The answer is to give money to religious groups that teach people to be obedient without question. Because of this, the church you went to as a child did not support liberation theology. Your pastor called civil rights worldly for this very reason. But Acts 4:120 shows that their goal is wrong. You are the one who must decide if it is okay with God for people to obey you instead of God. We can't help but talk about what we've seen and heard. The truth came out in any case. Fannie Lou Hamer stood in front of the Democratic Convention in 1968 with Mississippi dirt still on her feet. She sang "This Little Light of Mine" as the white delegates were leaving. Her voice wasn't loud, it was gentle and steady. When black pastors preach from pulpits built on land that their ancestors worked, it makes the current state of fear even worse. When black theologians turn the Bible into Ebonics and black kids start churches in empty shopping malls, they are more scared of your altar than they are of your anger. Keep this in mind. 3 different systems will break down by 2030 because they are crooked. The student loan business is the first time black graduates understand they can make money outside of the white-collar ladder position. Second, the pharmaceutical jail, which happens when black communities use traditional methods instead of drugs to heal from trauma. The prison industrial complex is the third group. When cities that have restorative justice programs see a 40% drop in crime, divine reversal is not simply a saying. Building is going on. Isaiah 61:4 says that they will bring back to life places that have been destroyed for a long time and repair the old ruins. Black architects in New Orleans are designing homes that are both flood-resistant and good for the environment. They are using ideas from the Dog on the Cliff villages. Black engineers in Detroit are turning old factories into vertical farms. Black women turned a vacant property in Ferguson, Missouri, where Michael Brown was shot and killed, into a community orchard. It is not strong to do that. It is an economics that is founded on the resurrection. Gravediggers are starting to understand that the body is moving, which is what is making them panic. If you choose to stay unconscious, you will be passing on the same war to your children. They will keep fighting the same struggles over the right to vote, the right to clean water, and the right to breathe. But if you get up today, you'll be the one to break the chain. Start slowly. You should give 10% of your money to a black-owned firm. Every first Saturday of the month, you should clean up a park in your area. You shouldn't give your nephew the name on his birth certificate, which is the name of a slave. Instead, you should teach him the Yoruba name that your ancestors took with them across the Atlantic. These are not gestures. They are grenades that are thrown right at generational curses. They get scared right away when they witness you choosing to live. When you chose self-respect over loneliness last month and refused to stay in that bad relationship, you started a chain reaction of criticism. When you decide to spend time with your family cooking instead of glancing at your phone, you start to feel judged. You got people mad at you for putting sweetgrass in the window box you made for yourself. Little gestures of obedience can bring down empires. My uncle was a deacon in a black Baptist church for 30 years. Even though his own house was falling apart, he kept giving 10% of his income. While he was telling people to follow the law, the cops were killing his friends. His sermons were full of lies. Later on, heaven will come. But in 2020, his grandson was hit with tear gas during a protest. He lost it. That Sunday, he got up to preach and ripped his Bible to pieces. He then said that this translation is bad. The God of Exodus, on the other hand, did not tell Moses to be patient. He said, "Let my people go." My uncle lost his job because he woke up. He is now in charge of a community garden where older people educate younger people on how to grow food and faith together. Not with one big move, but with small choices every day to honor your ancestors. Choose wisdom above the rules of your oppressors and feel the panic. That is how you break free from cycles that have been going on for 400 years. Chain blessings is a type of theology that says this is the end of the doctrine. Foes with white faces are not your foes. The Spirit tells you to keep your head down. There is a black CEO who won't give loans to black business owners. A black professor thinks that reparations are impossible to get, while a black pastor thinks that freedom is divisive. That spirit is what makes the fair. The Bible says in 1 John 4:4 that greater is he who is in you than he who is in the world. This means that your strength doesn't come from the color of your skin. The Spirit made the waters go away, stop people from fighting. Fight against systems. Credit unions should give money to black innovators. There should be homeschool groups that educate African astronomy. Set up land trusts that would buy foreclosed homes one block at a time. You set the stage for God's wrath by being the remnant that God promised. You are planning to build a new community center in your living room as soon as they shut down the old one. When they throw your brother in jail, you will send him books that will help him get his mind back. When they delete it, you will carve your history into stone with your own hands. They are scared of the secret time frame they have. In 2025, more black people will possess land because of successful reparations lawsuits. 10 big cities will no longer rely on drugs for mental health by 2028. Instead, they will rely on black mental health collectives. In 2032, the first Pan-African school opens in Atlanta and teaches cosmology using the Timbuktu scrolls. In 2035, memories will start to be passed on instead of money. We record the oral histories of people who survived the Tulsa disaster so that they might be used in virtual reality classes. Ghanaian griots are teaching artificial intelligence how to keep Wawalafovab safe. By 2040, the United States of America will still be around. It will be rebuilt not as a white empire, but as a patchwork of countries that finally recognize their first peoples. This will be the case in the end. The worry is not because of losing power. This is to clear up the false idea that they built this place completely by themselves. But Psalms 127:1 tells them that their work is nothing if the Lord doesn't build the house. They built their building on sand. You have a strong base to work from. Right now you are standing in the water up to your knees and chest. You can hear this, but the chariots are getting closer. Even after Moses raised his staff, the Red Sea didn't start to split right away. As soon as the priest walked in, it fell apart. This is the next step. You need to cancel your subscription to trauma porn, buy a share in the solar panel business that a relative owns, forgive the relative who voted against you and let them go. The next step is to set up a voter drive close to them. Holy steps are being taken slowly and surely. The panic gets worse because they see you walking, not running, not fighting, but walking in trust. The wheels of their chariots are becoming stuck even though the water hasn't split yet. The helicopters are running low on gas. Because your move isn't set in stone, the algorithms can't guess what you're going to do next. In a prophetic way, you don't carry the ark with wood and gold. Instead, you carry it with the line that connects Harriet's midnight runs to the coding class your child goes to. It stems from the crisscross motifs that your grandma wove into quilts. The drum's rhythmic beats are still echoing in your blood. They get nervous because they can't hold back what God has put inside them. When you choose to be happy on Monday mornings, you are vulnerable to being criticized. When you cook the gumbo recipe that grandma used to make, you start to feel judgment. When you dance in your kitchen to a fellow hearty, you are subject to judgment. This isn't a performance, it's the priesthood. You are the priest who is moving forward in the land. The water level is rising. The chariots are sinking. Don't walk that way. The land that was promised to them is becoming closer to yours, the land that is full of righteousness, milk and honey. This is the one where your kids will never have to worry about the auction block. The ocean is starting to break up. Go on a walk. The sound of ancestors breathing through your lungs, not a Hollywood roar, is what splits the sea. The next step is the next. The sludge of the Red Sea sticks to your ankles like auction blocks in Charleston, sharecropper debts in Alabama, or red line streets in Chicago. It feels like it has been there for 400 years, but the walls of water are strong. They are still there because you chose to walk instead of running away. This is the hour that historians who worked for Pharaoh tried to forget, not the leaving, but the walking. The truth is hidden in Joshua 3:17, a threat. As everyone in Israel crossed the Jordan, the priests who were in charge of carrying the ark stood firmly on dry land in the center of the river. These priests are just like you. Your hands are not empty. They carry the ark of your forebears and prayers that never stop. Feel the weight of it. That is the compass that Harriet uses at night. You can see the bullet wounds on Fanel's body here. This is the DNA of Timbuktu scholars that is running through your blood and veins. Chariots are still there in your rearview mirror. They still create a rumbling sound, but with each step you take, their wheels sink deeper and deeper into the muck. Avon is really doing the sabotage. Remember this. In 1998, the Gullah-Geechee Eldormi SS Hattie W was found on Edisto Island in South Carolina. This property, which had been taken from Sierra Leone, is where her great-grandmother was born. Developers offered her millions of dollars for her land. She didn't agree. Instead, she planted lush grass where the slave cabins used to be. Every morning at dawn, she walked around the rose garden humming an old mind hymn. When hurricanes hit, her crops were the last to get wet. When there were droughts, her crops were the first to grow. Scientists called it soil science. Miss Hattie used the word covenant. While she braided sweetgrass into designs that looked like those of our ancestors, she told me that God remembered the land that had caused us pain. At the age of 92, she gave the land to a black youth cooperative. They built a solar-powered irrigation system using doggone water technology. Kids who used to sell narcotics on the street are now picking yams where chains used to clang. Doing that is not being strong. It is a geography of the resurrection, the panic you saw today, the spirit of Pharaoh, and the sight of dry land when there should only be sea. Watch out for this. A nonviolent revolution started in Jackson, Mississippi, the same week that George Floyd died. In other words, deeds of property, not protestations. A group of black pastors, lawyers, and grandmothers bought 200 acres of land that had been utilized as a plantation. They didn't build condos. In the place where the overseers had put their whips, they built a food forest, peach trees, okra crops, and beehives. The first harvest fed 500 families. The second harvest helped set up a free clinic in a structure that had been used as a segregated hospital in the past. But this is the supernatural mark that they can't describe. It was said that the lead levels in the soil were 90% lower than those in the surrounding plots. Researchers were confused and scratched their heads. They knew about it. Leviticus 26:42 is a quiet discovery. I will always remember the deal I made with Jacob. When you get the land back after it has been stolen, it will heal you. This is why banks won't give loans to black agricultural cooperatives anymore. Politicians think land trusts are against development for this reason. They are afraid of hallowed ground. People aren't worried about how much real estate is worth. It's about getting rid of the idea that stolen soil can't make noise. Please stop. Take a step back. Can you point out the food forest with an asterisk? That phrase scares them more than any other sign against protests. In 1865, Sherman's Field Order No. 15 promised the freedmen that they would get 40 acres and a mule. The endeavor to restore things had failed by 1877. The reclaiming of those acres worked, but the divine cycles never stop. They both sleep through the winter. The 40 acres that are currently available are similar to urban farms in Detroit, where guys who have been in jail grow collard greens on empty lots. 40 acres are like the 500 black families in Tulsa who after the murder refused to sell their homes and rebuilt Greenwood from the ground up. It seems like 40 acres is similar to the Ghana homecoming movement, where people from the diaspora go back to their ancestral towns. It's not about longing for the past. It's a matter of strategic restoration. Amos 9:14, the thunder will return my people who have been sent away to Israel. They will live in the restored cities which will be erected again. When people see that you are not asking for compensation, the fear starts to spread. You are practicing them. Every dollar you spend at a black farmer's market is a good thing. You write down every deed in a land trust. Everyone who sets a seed in soil that someone else has already worked on. This is what starts the judgment process. That is, by becoming heirs. They put this part deep in the records of Congress. The Violent Crime Control Act of 1994 didn't just pay for prisons. Section 101,000, one of the faith-based programs that must be put into place in juvenile establishments with a provision. Only King James Version Bibles can be used in applications. 1 Peter 2:18 says that they knew the King James Bible says that slavery is God's will. The King James Version of the Bible does not include any black persons. There is no mention that Simon of Cyrene, who carried Christ's cross, was probably a North African with dark skin. But Acts 8:26-39 destroys their scheme. Philip sees an Ethiopian man reading Isaiah and immediately baptizes him. This person is really powerful. God's promise never left out Africa. In any case, the truth came out. In 2019, archaeologists in Ethiopia found a church that dates back to the 4th century. It has crosses carved into stone pillars that look like Nubian designs. Christianity did not come to Africa. It was not forgotten. When black seminarians translate the Bible into Yoruba, people all around the world freak out. When black theologians show how Constantine's council hid the image of Christ, this is called whitewashing. Imagine your teen saying, "Why does Jesus look like my oppressor in every painting?" This question is like a Molotov cocktail thrown from the altars of Babylon. You need to pay close attention to this time frame. The United Nations will celebrate the International Year of the Black Woman, or Jubilee Year, in 2025. Leviticus 25:10 tells you what to do. Everyone who lives in the land must be told that they are free. See what happens next. Ecosystems are taking the place of checks as the main focus of the reparations movement. Black engineers in Louisiana utilized concepts from historic West African rice fields to make floating gardens in deltas that were sinking. These gardens were made to float. Black midwives are setting up mobile clinics in parts of California where black women are 30 times more likely to die during childbirth than white women. Work with AI creators to make voice archives in Washington, D.C. This way, schools that don't allow books can still teach history. This isn't activism, it's engineering from the Jubilee. The budget shortage isn't what's making people worried. To put it another way, the story is being lost. If you teach your child about the gold empire that Mansa Musa had before Columbus found it, they will have a new kind of imagination. If your granddaughter prays to a god who looks like her grandma, she will get a lot of value that can't be questioned. Because of this, they are more scared of your dinner table than of your courthouse. Imagine that you are standing on the auction block in Richmond in the year 1840. The hammer is falling. It is your baby boy who is being sold away from you. The overseer makes you take a King James Bible. You slaves, please do what your lords tell you. That night, though, an elder in the cabin whispers the real text to the slaves. This is what Exodus 21:16 says. People who kidnap someone and then sell them should be put to death. A fire starts in your soul. That verse is stuck in my head. She hears you speaking it to her. She is the one who carries it on the Underground Railroad. King's granddaughter is marching with him. Her great-grandson just got his degree from Howard Law. He is suing the city that was responsible for his relative's death. This is how the chains break. With one poem that was passed down from generation to generation like a torch, not with a big bang, you now have that verse inside of you. When you decide not to sign the contract with unfair terms, as soon as you leave the therapist's office, they will be able to see that you are angry. When you turn off that app that earns money out of your trauma, you are not only healing yourself, but you are also doing God's work. The panic had made Pharaoh's heart rate steady. Things start to get dangerous now. The same spirit that was responsible for the crucifixion of Christ now whispers in the ears of the dark, "You are not enough." This is what a professor at an Ivy League school believes when he says that reparations are not possible. If you're a black celebrity and you say something like, "Stop playing the race card," as the church's deacon talks, he says, "Suffering builds character, even though his flock is losing homes to gentrification." But 2 Corinthians 10:4-5 proves that idea wrong. We don't utilize the same weaponry in battle that other countries do. We break down arguments and any other false claims that go against the knowledge of God. You don't have a ballot. This is a basket of greens that you picked from your community garden. Hashtag is not the weapon you want to use. You tell your nephew the story of the names he really goes by. Your degree is not your weapon. You are the one who sets up the drum circle in the park where the police used to patrol. They get nervous because they can't handle how happy you are. While they are building border fences, you are making things worse by holding a block party. If you decide to baptize your child in a river where people have been lynched, you are asking for trouble. You start a chain reaction of judgment when you dance with another hot person in a neighborhood that has been gentrified. Hell is more scared of a holy opposition than it is of any amount of anger. Take a look at this. 3 things will change by 2030 that will startle the world. First, food deserts will turn into black food sovereignty zones, which would encompass everything from rooftop gardens in Chicago to aquaponic farms in Atlanta. Second, the prison pipeline will be broken when restorative justice circles become more common than juvenile detention centers. Third, the wealth gap will close because black land trusts are doing better than Wall Street portfolios. But the divine reversal isn't only about money, it's also about knowledge. Isaiah 54:13 says, "All your children will be taught by the Lord." The first Pan-African university, which will open in Atlanta in 2027, will not teach European philosophy but will instead focus on astronomy and European cosmology. Graduates of white companies do not want jobs there. In Sagal, they build solar grids and an AI that turns Bambara proverbs into English. This scares the old guard more than riots do. You and your knowledge are what they fear the most. The fear isn't about losing students, that's not what it's about. People shouldn't have a monopoly on the truth. If your child learns that black engineers built the pyramids instead of Hebrew slaves, they will have a different future than they would have had otherwise. If you don't wake up, your kids and grandkids will have to deal with the same problems you had. People in Flint will beg for clean water. "I can't breathe at the new graves," they will chant. They will think this because they believe that their melanin is a curse. If you wake up today, you will be the one to break the chain, not by a spectacular gesture, but by being steadfast like a saint. You should give a tithe to the black therapist in your community who is helping people heal from trauma. Along with building a cooperative food business, put money into land with your family. Teach your daughter how to braid hair by adding crest symbols that stand for the phrase, "return and get it." These activities are not insults, they are spiritual warfare. Because you chose to be happy this morning instead of looking at trauma tapes, you have caused judgment. You aroused judgment by choosing to spend your time making gumbo with your son instead of watching television news. You made others judge you when you planted collard greens on your balcony. There are tablespoons of okra seeds that are used to keep the books of heaven in order. The sound of hell's vaults cracking open is what is making people fear. My grandmother was born in Mississippi in 1921. The family set fire to the schoolhouse she went to on her 9th birthday. She spent her whole life scrubbing white people's floors and saying psalms to keep alive. She made me afraid of the cops, made me not trust banks, and told me to keep my voice down. But I did take her to Ghana in 2015. We were to Cape Coast Castle, the dungeon where 10 million people were forced to enter the darkness. The waves crashed against the coast and she fell to her knees, not out of sadness but out of anger. She yelled in a language she had never learned, but her bones remembered it. That night she used a black land trust to cash her first check. She promised me before she died that I would never let them make me feel less than them again. She lost her peace of mind when she woke up, but it gave you power. This is how the exchange rate of liberation is shown. The worry you are feeling in your spirit right now is not terror. You can hear her cry echoing in your DNA. People who are white are not the enemy. You need permission from the spirit to be free. There are zoning laws that stop black farms from working, algorithms that stop black businesses from getting loans, and churches that tell people to wait on God while their kids go hungry. But Luke takes away its potency, a sign that says, "The Spirit of the Lord is on me to proclaim freedom for the prisoners." There is no way for you to be free. The claim is made. Start straight away. Stop your membership in the trauma channel right away. Put money into the solar panel company that your family member runs. Please pardon the white neighbor who bothered you by phoning the cops. You should invite her to your junth barbecue. There is no sign of weakness here. It's a way of forgiving on purpose. You will be able to break their hold on your spirit as soon as you let go of their debt. If they see you walking around with an unshakable sense of authority, the panic will get worse. It's not because you're loud, it's because you're rooted. They are terrified of the hidden transfer. In 2028, black agricultural cooperatives will own 15% of the fresh food in the US. By 2031, community land trusts will own 30% of the homes in both Baltimore and Detroit. In 2033, the first reparations bonds will be paid off not with checks, but with ownership stakes in infrastructure that black people built. In 25 years, the transformation will be over without any uprisings or receipts. Black elders are in charge of water systems that were built on land that belonged to their ancestors. Young people of African origin are leading climate coalitions with the help of Timbuktu's hydraulics literature. When it comes to replacing books with real-life, black people are now the historians. The United States of America doesn't break apart, it changes. Like a caterpillar turns into a butterfly, old systems have to go away so that new wings can grow. People are worried about more than just losing a country. It's about giving up the false belief that they made it all by themselves. The first part of Psalm 127:1 says, "Unless the Lord builds the house, its builders labor in vain." They utilize sand to build. You are building on sin. You're on dry land now. The sea hasn't closed yet. Turn it around. Look behind you. The Pharaoh's chariots are still there. Their boat is going down. Helicopters sputter as they fly above underwater communities. As black money moves into black banks, algorithms clash. The politicians trip over the laws they made for you. But Exodus 14:30 says that a choice was made, neither of them got through. No system is built on stolen breath. It's going to last. The student loan business is going down the drain because black students may get money from vocational schools. The communities are using ancestral traditions to heal trauma, which is breaking down the pharmacological prison. As cities that have blacklisted restorative justice see a drop in crime, an industrial structure that houses prisoners falls apart. I don't feel hopeful about this. There is a supernatural plan that makes history repeat itself. Babylon and Rome both fell apart. The repressive rule of America will come to an end. But the land is still there, the people are still there, and the God who split the waters is still there. The ark you are carrying is not made of gold either. This is your grandmother's sweetgrass basket. It just so happens that your nephew can code. The border that has been there since the Nile and the Mississippi. They are panicking because they can't control what God has put in place. You utilize your judgment when you choose to be happy on a Monday morning. Your ancestors are judging you as you cook. While you dance, you make decisions throughout the place, from Miriam's tambourine to your kitchen. No, this is not a performance. There is a priesthood. The remnant that successfully passed through the sea is you. The ground under your feet being dry is not a strange thing. It's a promise. Now it's time to make a choice. Are you planning to build altars in this holy place? Are you going to go back to the meat pots of Egypt, though? It ends at 24:15 Joshua. This day you must decide who you will serve. The meat pots give you a sense of comfort. That job that pays well but takes away your spirit. That church that talks about peace but doesn't do anything about wrongs. That relationship that makes you feel like you belong but also drains your spirit. You could also make altars, the altar of economic war. Spread black wealth around until their systems run out of money. The altar of stating the truth. Teach your students their history until the books catch fire. The altar of holy unity and togetherness. Forgive your brother's debts until the prison cells are empty and echo with their emptiness. This isn't a suggestion, it's about staying alive. Right now, the fear you feel is the start of a new world. Are you going to take care of it, or are you going to do something else to take your mind off the pain? Those chariots are gone, you have to make the choice. Let this announcement ring out throughout your life. Any weapon that is made to hurt your family will not work. Your past can never be able to be erased by an algorithm. There won't be any lies. Get through your truth. I say that the soul of Black America will be healed as I speak over it. Your kids will be free. Your tears will be utilized to water gardens that are full of your ancestors' bones. I declare that the economy will rise again. A lot of tides of freedom were put into the black banks. I say in the name of spiritual power that your altars will stop the sounds of hell. I declare a unity that breaks down all divisions. It's not just something you want to happen. Here is what the Lord says. The same God who drowned Pharaoh's army is walking with you right now. Your community gardens are like his chariots. His armies are the programming apps you make for kids. His thunder sounds like the sound of your grandma's lullaby. The gates of hell will not be successful. Not because you're strong, but because the ark you're carrying has the God who created the rivers split inside it. The water isn't closed yet, but it will be soon. The old world will be underwater when this happens. A new planet is forming. Your kids will never know about the shadow that the auction block casts. Your grandkids will dig up this dirt and find seeds instead of chains. There is more to the story. This is the end of the Exodus. As a survivor, don't walk alone. Take up the role of heirs. There was a wild area in the desert behind you. A promise is the place that lies ahead. Black-owned dairy farms in Mississippi make milk. Honey has been observed dripping from hives on roofs in Oakland. The communal courts where elders act as judges are where justice starts. The promised land is not a place on a map. It is a group of individuals who have changed. They are scared right away when they notice you coming. With hose in hand, planting the seeds of the future, not bullets or hate. This is the end of the ocean. The troops of Pharaoh are no longer there. The ark is on a flat platform. Build altars at the places where slave ships docked at this time. The blocks that are used for auctions should be used to build schools. Make gardens in the spots where prisoners were buried. You can keep the inheritance. This is your time. The world will tell you that the end is near, but you know the truth, the start of it. You can hear the bones shake. The army is getting stronger. The gates of hell will also not work. The job is done. This is how it all begins.